She only stopped for gas on a quiet American highway, but the moment her feet touched the concrete, 3 men locked their eyes on her like she was an easy target. They had no idea she was about to cross paths with a biker crew who didn't just protect people, they delivered justice in flavors no thug ever forgets. Before we dive into this wild story, hit subscribe so you never miss the stories that shake your heart, hit your spine, and remind you that heroes still walk among us. It was supposed to be a quick stop on a warm Thursday evening, the kind of golden hour that made the sky look like melted sherbet. Lindsay Carter, a 32-year-old single mother of a 7-year-old girl named Avery, pulled into the Sunfuel gas station off Route 17 with the kind of exhaustion that comes from balancing 2 jobs, tight bills, and a heart full of love that always seemed a little heavier at the end of each week. She had just picked up Avery from her friend's house after working a double shift at the diner, and the little girl was asleep in the back seat, hugging her pink backpack the same way she hugged her stuffed bunny whenever she felt anxious. Lindsay stepped out of her silver Honda Civic, stretching her back and brushing a few loose strands of hair behind her ear. The gas station was quiet, only 2 other cars in the lot, the neon sign flickering overhead like it was struggling to stay alive. She had only been there for 10 seconds when she sensed something was off. It wasn't the silence. It wasn't the flickering sign. It was the way 3 men leaning beside a black pickup truck suddenly straightened when they saw her. They weren't fueling. They weren't talking. They were just staring. Extended stares, slow smirks, that kind that sends a cold spike down your spine even in warm weather. Lindsay kept her eyes down and swiped her card at the pump. She knew this feeling. She'd felt it before years ago, from people who thought a woman alone was a green light for intimidation. She wanted to get out of there fast, but her tank was almost empty, and she didn't want to risk driving on fumes with Avery in the car. The men started walking toward her, slow and casual like predators pretending they weren't hunting yet. The leader, a scruffy guy in a stained flannel shirt, spoke first. "Evening," he said, dragging the word like a blade across pavement. "Didn't mean to scare you. Just thought we'd say hi." Lindsay forced a small, guarded smile and nodded, hoping they'd keep walking, but they didn't. They got closer, too close. The second man circled the car slightly, glancing through the back window at sleeping Avery. "Cute kid," he said. Lindsay's stomach twisted. "Please don't go near my car," she said firmly. The men all chuckled, the kind of laugh that had no humor, only entitlement. The leader stepped closer, invading her personal space. "Relax," he muttered. "We're just being friendly. A pretty lady out here alone. That's dangerous." Lindsay stepped back, her hand trembling as she held the gas pump. "I'm not alone," she said. "My husband is inside." It was a lie, a desperate one. They knew it. The men smirked again, glancing at the empty store. "Sure he is," the leader said. "Why don't we wait with you until he comes out?" Lindsay's pulse doubled. She scanned the area quickly. No employees outside. No other customers. Her phone was in her purse in the car. She felt trapped in plain sight. Then something changed. A low rumble in the distance. At first, she thought it was a truck or maybe thunder rolling in early. But the sound grew louder, deeper, stronger. It was the unmistakable growl of motorcycle engines. Lindsay turned her head toward the road just as 5 bikes appeared, cutting through the evening air like steel beasts. They were large, black, chrome, heavy machines, the type you couldn't mistake for anything but biker club bikes. The riders wore matching cuts, patches embroidered across their backs in deep red and white colors. She recognized the name immediately because they were known in the area for charity rides and children's toy drives, the Iron Shields. The thugs noticed them too, but instead of backing off, their expressions hardened, as if their pride didn't want them to retreat in front of newcomers. The bikers slowed near the pumps, observing the scene with sharp eyes honed by years of reading danger before it erupted. The leader, a tall man with a thick beard and calm but intense eyes, swung his leg off his bike and walked toward them. His name patch read, Grizzly. "Everything all right here?" Grizzly asked, his tone even but carrying weight. Not loud, not threatening, but sharp enough that the air itself felt different. The leader of the thugs straightened. "Yeah," he said, puffing out his chest. "We're just talking. She's fine." Grizzly looked at Lindsay. "Ma'am," he said gently. "That true?" Lindsay opened her mouth, but fear tightened it shut. She didn't want trouble. She didn't want violence. She didn't want Avery to wake up and see something terrifying happening. But she also didn't want to lie. She gave the smallest shake of her head. That was all the Iron Shields needed. The bikers dismounted in sync, almost silently, though their heavy boots hit the ground with a presence that made the thugs flinch. Grizzly took one step forward. "Fellas," he said calmly, "I need you to step back from the lady's car." The thug leader scoffed. "Or what?" Grizzly didn't answer. Another biker, a big guy with tattooed arms named Hatcher, stepped forward too. Then another, and another. They weren't yelling. They weren't threatening. They simply existed with the kind of confidence that made cowardly men feel their own weakness. The thugs looked at each other, suddenly aware that the odds weren't in their favor. Still, pride is a dangerous thing. The leader squared up. "This ain't your business," he said. "We're talking." Hatcher leaned forward slightly. "You're done talking," he said in a tone so low and steady it felt like a warning from an approaching storm. "Walk away." When the men didn't move, the quiet biker at the back spoke up. His name Patch read, "Doc." He didn't shout, but his words were ice cold. "There's a kid sleeping in that car. If you take one more step toward her or her mother, you're gonna taste a flavor you'll never forget." The line caught the thugs off guard. "Flavor," the leader muttered. "What flavor?" Doc smirked. "Consequences." It was subtle, but it hit the men harder than if he'd yelled. Finally, the second thug stepped back, uncertainty creeping into his expression. "Let's go," he muttered. The leader glared, torn between his ego and reality. But eventually he backed up, jerked his chin toward his truck, and the trio left the gas station with fake bravado but real fear. Lindsay exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Her hands shook as she tried to put the gas pump back in place. Grizzly stepped beside her. "You all right?" he asked gently. Lindsay nodded, though tears pressed behind her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "I didn't know what to do. My daughter's in the car. They were looking at her. Grizzly held up a hand. "You don't owe us explanations. You didn't do anything wrong." The bikers offered to wait until she finished fueling and even escorted her inside for water. Avery woke up briefly and blinked sleepily at the bikers, who softened instantly, greeting her with gentle waves and smiles. Lindsay learned that the Iron Shields had been on their way to a charity ride briefing nearby. They told her the gas station was known for occasional trouble at night and that she should never hesitate to call for help. When she was ready to leave, Grizzly said something that caught her off guard. "There are a lot of flavors in this world," he said. "Some sweet, some bitter. Some people choose to serve bitterness wherever they go. But we choose a different flavor. We choose to show up when people need us most." Lindsay smiled through tears. "Well," she said, "you definitely served something unforgettable tonight." "Good," Grizzly answered. "It's our signature blend." As she drove away with Avery, she watched the bikers in the rearview mirror, standing tall, talking quietly, making sure the thugs didn't circle back. She felt a sense of gratitude that filled her chest with warmth. But the story didn't end there. The next day, Lindsay received a call from the local sheriff's office. The same 3 men had been arrested after trying to harass another woman at a different gas station. This time, the woman had called 911 immediately, describing them and their truck. The sheriff connected the dots and reached out to Lindsay for additional information. But she explained that the bikers had stepped in before anything physical happened. The sheriff thanked her anyway and told her she was lucky the Iron Shields were there. Later that week, Lindsay baked homemade cookies and drove to the Iron Shields clubhouse, a converted warehouse with bikes lined neatly out front. She brought Avery along, and the bikers greeted them like family. Inside, the place smelled like leather, coffee, and a hint of engine oil. Avery ran from biker to biker like she'd known them forever, collecting stickers, then a tiny pink helmet someone jokingly said was her official honorary member badge. Lindsay finally found Grizzly, who was tinkering with his bike. "You didn't have to come," he said with a smile. "We were just doing what's right." "I know," she replied. "But I wanted you to know how much it meant." Grizzly nodded. "Then let me tell you something too. You weren't as alone as you thought. You stood your ground. You protected your kid. That takes strength." The words hit her deeper than she expected. They talked for a long time that evening, about life, fears, challenges, and the strange flavors life serves when you least expect them. For the first time in a long while, Lindsay felt safe, and Avery, wearing her pink helmet, climbed onto a small stationary bike inside the clubhouse, laughing as the bikers cheered for her. When Lindsay and Avery finally left, the sun was setting, painting the sky with the same sherbet color she'd seen the night of the incident. Except this time, she wasn't scared, she wasn't tired, she felt empowered, protected, seen. And somewhere on Route 17, 3 thugs sat in a county cell reflecting on a flavor they would indeed never forget: the taste of fear when real men stood up, the taste of regret when they confronted someone innocent, and the lingering, bitter aftertaste that came from realizing their targets weren't alone. Because sometimes life serves justice in unexpected flavors, and sometimes those flavors roar in on motorcycles. Lindsay knew she'd never forget that night, and neither would anyone who heard the story. It spread across town, then across social media, becoming a reminder that courage comes in many forms, danger can appear anywhere, and heroes can show up wearing leather vests instead of capes. And sometimes, the sweetest flavor of all is knowing that good people still exist in the world, watching quietly, ready to step in the moment darkness tries to take over. The night had begun with fear, but it ended with protection, unity, and a new chapter in Lindsay's life. She would always remember the moment the iron shields rolled in, surrounded the danger, and served a flavor powerful enough to chase away shadows. A flavor no thug ever forgets. And as you watch this story unfold, tell me in the comments, from which part of the country are you watching this video?